In 1635, William Pynchon and a couple of Bostonians, part of that new colony that had been established called Massachusetts Bay, came up the Connecticut River to this point, today called Pynchon's Point, where the Westfield River meets the Connecticut, the confluence. And sailing up this river, maybe a quarter of a mile, Pynchon met with the Agawam people, native people who had inhabited this riverine system for years and years. They may have once been a great tribe, but when he came here, he was only able to contact 18 of what he would call sachems. These sachems and Pynchon would make a deal where Pynchon would be able to establish a trading post here on the Westfield River to conduct trade with the Agawam and the native people to the north, such as the Nipmuc and the Nonotuck and the Pecumtuck. Pynchon is a wheeler-dealer. He wants to create a settlement that is profitable with him as the CEO. This is the beginning of the Springfield colony that will give rise to Springfield, Massachusetts, although it was debatable at the time whether it would go with Connecticut or Massachusetts. We're going to be fishing the confluence today on Fishing Historic Places. Once again, Officer Thump and I put to sea. Well, in this case, we put to sand, as the river in this area is very shallow. Pynchon describes the Connecticut River and its confluence with the Westfield much as we find it today, as Officer Thump and I head out onto the confluence between the two. This river has always been troubled with sandbars. The river is home to a great variety of species. Any fish you can find in Lake Champlain, you can find in the Connecticut River. Interestingly, walleye, sauger, pike, chain pickerel, smallmouth bass, everybody is out here waiting to give your line a tug. So Tom is chucking a big eel-like critter. He's got his Rapala rig too, of course. And I'm using a Zara Spook style bait right now, a stick bait, if that's what they call them. Got different names for these things. Pencil bait, stick bait, I've heard them all. I just call it a Zara Spook type bait that allows me to walk the dog. Now the river here is got a lot of good, as I said, potential. It has pike, it has walleye, it has large and smallmouth bass in reasonable abundance. It's got catfish, and if you don't know, catfish will strike a bass lure. I've caught them on spinnerbaits, I've caught them on crankbaits, I've caught them on rubber grubs and rubber worms. So don't think that you're free from the catfish. There's also 50 to 60 pound carp swimming around in here. And that's kind of cool. And in the spring, of course, you've got your river run fish like stripers. There are also, believe it or not, quite a lot of eels in the Connecticut River, which can provide great forage, but they can grow to be 5 to 6 feet long. So you got a lot of different fish you can see in here. There are burbot in the river and bowfin, all of which are just cool. Gar. Like I say, almost any fish that you would expect to find in the northern lakes, like the Great Lakes or Lake Champlain, you can find in the Connecticut River. So like fishing any river, the key is going to be finding current breaks and pockets of structure that are different. Now most of the bottom here is sand, and the depth is fairly shallow, but on this shore, I'm in an eddy possibly created by this snag of stumps ahead of me. And the water's a lot deeper here. I'm in like 5 feet of water. I can see the bottom. It's nice and clear, but there's a lot of water here. You can see the river getting shallower out in front of me. So what's nice about this is it presents an opportunity. Let me see what I can do here. I got some great structure. We got fish on this great structure. spinnerbait may not be the bait. I've had great success with spinnerbaits in rivers before. And so in front of us, you can see Tom banging the southern shore of the Westfield River here. And what's particularly interesting about that is Tom is right out in front of the area that Pynchon, William Pynchon, purchased from the Agawam people, because it was, in his opinion, the most fertile area in their entire heritage. A very beautiful set of low fields that the Agawam told him flooded in the springtime, but which he recognized could actually be the heart and soul of the agricultural aspect or center of his new Springfield colony. And of course, when you look at this now, and you see the tree cover, and we're looking at assorted silver maples and beeches. I've seen some catalpas, like the nice green one right over there, and sumac and oak. When you see this tree cover, you got to understand that there wasn't much as far as sage trees or even moderately sized trees in the Springfield that Pynchon originally settled. That's why it was called Springfield. All of the Connecticut River Valley had been made into fields by the practice of slash and burn farming. I mean, nobody wants to call it that, but that's pretty much what the native people did when they farmed. They settled areas that had good soil, good alluvial soil down by rivers, and they banded the trees, and before you knew it, they were setting fire to the undergrowth. And if you want to know why, all you got to do is step on a chestnut husk. And I've said this to people before, and they'll all of a sudden get it. If they know what a chestnut husk is like, it's like stepping on a Chinese throwing star. We're talking about major sharp spines that stick out, and maybe 30-35% of the biomass of the northeastern forests at the time of Pynchon were purportedly chestnuts. And if you're a native person and you're moving through hunting with your moccasins on, you step on one of those things, it actually, I think, could be fatal. The native practice of burning the forests definitely took out the threat of the chestnut in the foot, which isn't a good thing. But beyond that, it cleared the undergrowth so that the native people would be able to hunt effectively. Remember that most of the animals that inhabit northeastern forests like edges, like the edges of woodlands, right? Like they do today. I mean, we'll find more white-tailed deer in our suburbs of Massachusetts now than we will in the deep Berkshire forests. They prefer fields and forests mixed, and that's what the native people created in their what they sometimes refer to as fire-rich environments. So as I paddle along, you can see where Tom is fishing up around that power line coming across. He's got a riprap bank that he's pounding, and it was right there that Pynchon made his negotiations with the Agawam and ultimately grabbed a chunk of that land where Tom is, on the left side of the river, or the south side of the river, for himself, for an extra 2 fathom of wampum and an extra 2 hatchets and 2 hoes and 2 coats and 2 blankets. Pynchon grabbed a chunk that he knew would be agriculturally solid. It gets flooded every year by this river. The native people told him. I mean, the Agawam said, yeah, the flood, and what he knew about that was that meadow, which floods, would have great fertile soil. And in a new colony in the middle of the wilderness here in western Massachusetts, good fertile soil was going to be something that would be really important, because they didn't have a lot of families coming, and they would need some land in their back pocket that they knew would produce. And that's what Pynchon got when he purchased that land. It's just in front of Tom, up there by the power line towers. So all over the Northeast, our native people were riverine people. So when we look at the world around us today, and we go under a state highway bridge like I just did, the Route 5 bridge, and we look across the confluence at Route 91, roaring north and south, right? We're looking at the area that the native people lived in. In fact, Route 5 was a native path that went north-south all the way up to Montreal along the river. They aren't path runners per se. They'd much rather take a canoe. But they traveled by land as well. On the other side of the river, right in front of where Tom and I, right pretty much on the bow of my kayak right now, the Agawam people built a stockade all 3-4 years after Pynchon established his colony to my right. Now, he was there for a year. In 1637, he moved to the other side of the river, up by the Connecticut River a mile, and he built what we now see as Springfield, with its first church and common. That's the Springfield of William Pynchon, but it was originally built on the south side of the Agawam River, and Pynchon had a problem. He wanted to have good relations with the native people. However, his cattle and his pigs got into the Agawam plantings, messed up the corn, messed up the beans, messed up the squash, and before you knew it, he had his first complaint. They asked him if he would please move to the other side of the river, to wit, he did. So you can see where Tom is right now. There's the city of Springfield today. And where that pointed bell tower is, to the right of the two largest buildings, just to the right of that, you can just see the first church. And that was the geographic heart of Pynchon's Springfield settlement when he left his original trading post up the Westfield River. So looking at that, I'm going to tilt the kayak to this side, and you can see how close the native people were. They were right on that hill right here. So that's the native village. And on the left, there's the city of Springfield. And the natives wanted to be able to trade with Pynchon and the colony, trade easily. Another thing that Pynchon and his people did was they stored food throughout the winter. Native people would typically harvest and eat all. There wasn't a lot of storage. Women would be assigned to store the seeds for the following season, but that was where those seeds were was a carefully guarded secret. So in front of me is a bar created by the Mill River entering the Connecticut, and that bar provides an interesting interruption in the current. And we have a lot of minnows hopping in here. As I say that, we probably won't see another one, but there's been a lot of minnows hopping. I don't know what they are. Are they baby shad? Are they golden shiners? Who knows? But with a grub on like I'm using, I'm expecting maybe to wake somebody up. See the current creeping out there where you see that water a little bit disturbed. That's the current of the main river. And I would imagine you're going to have fish relating to that. So I'm casting out onto the edge of that. I just had somebody following me. Maybe things are heating up as the sun is going down, because it's been fairly slow to this point. Decided to start reeling the spinnerbait even faster. Started to really burn it. And I'm doing that because I'm noticing tons of minnows in this river. So I'm thinking if I just use this as a total surprise bait, just comes whipping across in front of them, I might get somebody to just jet out and whack it. All right, so Tom boats one, little smallmouth with the city of Holmes in the distance. We're in front of the confluence of the two rivers here. Westfield comes together with the Connecticut. And Pynchon Point right in front of us. And it's here, as I've said, that Pynchon meets with the native people. And makes a little deal. We always talk about the Dutch buying Manhattan. Well, it was a similar deal here. And the idea behind these land deals that the English made with the native people is the English knew what they were getting. They were getting permission to share the land. And of course, to the English, that means they're building a lot system, creating a lot system for the colonists in the settlement. They had a lot of land, you know. They're not used to this back in merry old England. So much land that they become quickly greedy. I mean, they have vegetable plots, and they have living plots, and then they have wood lots. And they just take advantage of the native people everywhere, all over the East. And it's the kind of greed that occurs to people that haven't always had. And now they're presented with this just unbelievable bounty, kid in a candy store phenomena, and they just go over the edge. That's pretty much what we see here. It's really sad. That's like, here I am fishing. You see pictures of people fishing in 1960, and they have a stringer of 25 fish, and they're not going to keep all those fish, or they're not going to eat all those fish. They're going to keep them. They're all dead. They're going to end up giving them to their neighbors and their neighbors' neighbors, and they're going to bring some to work. And okay, all right, you got a testosterone rush, I guess. You're like, you're a silverback gorilla. I see people do it today with things like mushrooms. They just go in the woods, they find some mushrooms they want to harvest, and they find more, and pretty soon they're like, they need a shopping cart to get all the mushrooms out of the woods, and they're not selling them, they're just taking them, and they got way more mushrooms than they're going to need. They're not going to eat all those mushrooms. I found myself doing it a few years ago, and I said, what the heck am I doing? You know, you find mushrooms, take some, leave some. You don't need them all. Somebody else will find them. That's what happened with the land here. And of course, we sit on our butts and we say, oh, I would never have done that. Yeah, you would. Yes, you would have done that. And you're probably doing it now in some way and don't even know you are. Tom is working his way back. He's trolling. I'm trying the jerk bait, Tom, but I have not had success yet. And, you know, sometimes you get to a nice spot and everything looks good. Like, look at how beautiful Springfield looks right here. Basketball Hall of Fame, center of the city of Holmes. Oh yeah, MGM Casino, everything's happening. But the point is, the fish really wasn't happening today. I mean, we got here at 3 and we banged around. I mean, I guess we didn't try everything, but we gave it a shot. So it's not always going to happen. It happened for Tom. He got a couple. It did not happen for me today, though. And that's part of the game. Oh, there's a duck. Look at him. So here we are at Pynchon Point on a river that's really an underutilized gem here in the Northeast. It really could use some more attention from people that are into some fishing action.
Some easier access.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was some easier access. You're right. And some safer access. But it's a beautiful river.